Chip Minnick may have what has become the most important of the decisions that need to be come to a result here is the correct pronunciation of Luke Whippler or Weipler's last name.
Personally, I'm going back to Whippler. I know I said Weipler last week because that's what Ohio State said. I've always said Whippler, and then Ohio State was like, "Yeah, we'll get it figured out. We'll go ask him, personally how he says it," but we haven't heard back. And his name is not in the pronunciation guide from 2020. So you got a whole bunch of other guys, but they don't have him. So I think as this show, I think we're all agreed Whippler until we're told differently, right, Steve?
That's right, Whippler. That's what I'm going with.
Was Justin Fields in the pronunciation guide?
Fields.
Okay. Very nice. I'm also looking at the much anticipated, recently released ESPN Football Power Index. I think Ohio State's placed better than they have been at other times. Was it just last season that they were 13th going into the season, or was that the season before? It doesn't much matter. They were one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country the last 2 years, and they started out at 13th. They're at number 5. And the record looks like it's supposed to be 10.8 versus 1.9 losses. That might be difficult to achieve.
1.9. Well,
2 losses for the Buckeyes, Steve.
Yeah, I saw, with the quarterback, a new quarterback, that is possible. I mean, it is entirely possible that there'd be mistakes and lead to losses. And they're playing some decent enough teams. I mean, Oregon, has a good enough team. The game's in Columbus, though, so it would be a surprise if Oregon was to pull that off. I think you look Ohio State, and we kind of get stuck in this thing where, I mean, what has it been for the last several years? They've only had 1 loss every year, at least in the regular season. And so, I mean, when was the last time they had 2 regular season losses? I don't even know.
17.
17, perhaps, with Oklahoma and a Big Ten loss? Yeah.
Iowa.
Yeah, so that's the only time back to 2011, maybe. So, I don't know. I guess it could happen. I don't feel or sense that there's a lot of teams out there capable of beating this team. I just for whatever reason, and for one thing or another, there, as I was going through the Big Ten, a lot of teams have a lot of starters returning, but that's kind of a good and bad thing. I mean, are they starters coming back from a team that went 8-2, or are they starters coming back from a team that went 2-4? I don't know. It's kind of cuts both ways, but the talent on the Ohio State team is at such a level that I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's unlikely to screw it up. I don't know. That's just my first blush at this whole thing. And I know that there were a lot of people lampooning the FPI that like Iowa State would be favored in a game over Ohio State. And I don't know, some different anomalies that came out as part of the FPI. But and that Cincinnati is nowhere in the top 25. That seems kind of a head scratcher as well when everybody's got them in the top 10. So I don't know.
And of course, it was a coincidence that you said just a random team would be 2-4, coming back with a number of starters.
Yeah, I mean, I just thrown a number out there.
Yeah, 2-4.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at this list, and what jumps out to me, my goodness, Mississippi State is the 8th best team in the country. I don't think they've been the 8th best team in the country in the history of the program in 120 years.
There was that one year where Ole Miss and Mississippi State both got to like 7-0, and then they both finished like 8-4 or something. Yeah. So yeah, and one of them was on the cover of Sports Illustrated for that 1 week, and then
so were the Cleveland Indians in 1987 during spring training.
Corey Snyder and
they lost 101.
Super Joe.
Well, that was after
Andy
Super
Allenson.
Joe Charbonneau. Yeah, Joe Carter.
Joe Carter.
Joe
Super
Carter.
Joe
Yes.
Carter. And Corey Snyder. Yeah.
The FPI was a couple years ago where they had Penn State and Michigan both higher than Ohio State in terms of the playoffs. I think they had like Ohio State was like a 1.8% chance to make the playoffs or something, like 8% chance to win the Big Ten. And it's like, have you ever watched college football? And have you seen what Ohio State has done over the last decade? And have you seen Penn State and Michigan? Michigan's last Big Ten title was 2004. Maybe they're not the best team to bet on this sort of thing right now or expect too much. But hey, I don't have a football percentage index, so who am I to speak?
Tony, that was, I'm almost positive, that was going into 2019. No Urban Meyer, transition at coach to Ryan Day, lost your quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, transition to Justin Fields. And if you've got a formula that puts so much emphasis on the changing of the coach and the changing of the quarterback, which I get on the surface, but can we actually apply context to the numbers to say, okay, you automatically just, if you lose a coach, then your program's doomed. And if you lose your quarterback, your program's doomed. And when you really absorb those numbers that you just pointed out, yeah, a less than 2% chance to make the playoffs, Ohio State. And I think the Big Ten championship number was like 7%. Like if they actually could play 100 football seasons, Ohio State would only win 7 Big Ten championships. Seriously.
Yeah, they need to chase
a zero after that 7.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And so I always go back to that, but it's I think it's too early for that because we're still talking about spring football. We need the FPI stuff to be released in like May. Let us. We need stuff pieced out to us May, June, July. That way we've got something to talk about each month. Like Phil Steele's magazine comes out, in July, and the magazines, and then you've got different seasons, and but it's here, so we can talk about it, and we can. Will it change next week? Will next week will updates be made?
And for you folks who are a bit bothered by the wins and loss totals not totaling 12, I think the factor is the possibility of going to the conference championship game, because if you go down the list of the teams that have no shot of making a conference championship game, they add up to 12 even. But for those teams that so basically Ohio State's got like a 70 or 80% chance, I guess, of making the conference championship game. That's why the wins and the losses add up past 12. Well, I'm referencing the site there.
So Michigan's
closer to 98.
Michigan's does add up to 12 then, is that correct?
It should. If it doesn't, I can't guarantee that. Cannot guarantee that at all.